It is a super Saturday morning, and you have Jennifer Ogilvy in front of the camera. Bailey Grady, my co pilot, will be hanging out in the chat as we get ready to set up for a new week. Welcome, 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 Sonder family. It's really good to see you. Some of y'all, I hope you've got like whatever wakes you up. I finished my lemon water, and then my daughter's staying with me, and she just brought me a hot cup of coffee. So I'm ready to hang out and chit chat with y'all. It's so good to see you. Yeah, Corey, Bailey, we laughed. We got on this morning. I said, I feel like I haven't seen you in a million years. So yeah, Bailey is excited about her day. She's at the Opryland Hotel, and she's getting ready to go do a water park. And I get to babysit my grandkids today. So everybody's got plans. I saw some of y'all were talking about your day and how things are going to go. Go ahead and write that affirmation down in your journal. This is this morning's affirmation. I feel grateful for the modest blessings of life. And this is from, our Sonder app. And I just want you to notice that none of my days are ticked off because I have chosen not to affirm these affirmations every day because breaking a streak made me feel crummy. And so I was like, well, then I don't need to affirm them. I'll just grab my journal and I'll write it down. So it's on my Saturday's journal space. And I just quit affirming. So anyway, but feel free to write your affirmation down for the day. We are grateful for the modest blessings of life. Man, we can sit with that and love that. You have your grandbaby. Oh, Rachel, that's a very, very beautiful blessing in your life. Oh, you met Cory Booker last night. Christy, you are probably like fangirl, right? That's fun. Okay, so be sure your chat is set to everyone because when we gather together, that's how we communicate with one another. And I'm going to ask, I see so many familiar names in the scrolling by in the chat. So welcome back, Sonder family. And if there's anybody who's here for the very first time, just say me in the chat. This is a cameras off, mics off event. So you do not have to, you get to sit back and just do you, but we do communicate through the chat. So make sure that chat says everyone. If it says host and panelists, then only Bailey and I will get to see your comment, which is fine. We don't mind, but we do a lot of sharing and support in our time together. Um, I will also invite you to, if you see something on the screen that speaks to you, grab a screenshot, put that in your journal somewhere. I'm actually going to go take today's affirmation and write that on my gratitude jar page because I just really, I don't know, it spoke to me. So yeah, tomorrow is a in real life meetup for the Dallas Fort Worth area Sonder family. And Cynthia, we're glad you're here. I'm sorry you're having a little bit of an off day. So we're glad that you are with people. We always say come as you are, right? And yes, Christy, I wish I was closer to Dallas. If I start getting some traveling in, I might just do pop-ups because I'm so excited about this. But if you are in the Dallas Fort Worth area, there's the information. Bailey's dropping it in the chat, and I'll be there. I'll be there to see you tomorrow. Here are the community guidelines that we share anytime we are together because we do create safe spaces for ourselves and safe spaces for one another. And so if you've been to these before, you're always going to see these community guidelines. We also use these in Sonder Club about posting and just how we show up for one another. So that's why those reminders are there. And then I have embraced this quote for the month of simplicity as we've been diving in. The ability to simplify means to eliminate the unnecessary so the necessary may speak. And I don't know about you, but I really am noticing that I'm what's standing in the way of me the simple life. I can blame the outside stuff, but it's really about the choices I make and how I choose to spend my days. And so, what do I need to eliminate that is unnecessary, right? That's a big question for me. So I've really enjoyed this month's theme. This morning, we will work on that simplicity mind map. So, if you are new here, that mind map is a deeper dig into the theme of the month through different lenses of looking at that every week, week to week. It's kind of your bonus for coming to a weekly setup. Then we're going to do a rosebud thorn reflection over this past week, and then we'll get on with some weekly setup pages. And again, I've got some great examples from y'all. So, thank you. If you see any of your pages or any of your examples on screen, shout out and tell us, let us thank you for sharing that, because that really helps our time together to be fruitful. We get a lot of great ideas from each other. And then I've been closing this month out with a little bit of a different vibe with the I am loving box. And so I will share all the end examples, or all the things at the end. And then when we hit that I am loving box, we will go out as we are sharing the thing that we are loving right now through the lens of simplicity. I've got a fun little song that I've been playing, and that's just, change things up a little bit for this month. So hang around till the end if you're able. So let's go ahead and turn to that mind map. Hopefully, you have it set up in your journal already. If not, I have all 4 questions. Grab that screenshot so that you can maybe go back and reflect if you'd like, but you can jump in at week 3 with no worries. You don't have to do all 4. And you're feeling scattered all over the place in your mind. Okay, well, let's just everybody take a deep breath. Let's just see if we can't center ourselves, get our mindset set into the idea of a new week and a new beginning. So, if you haven't set up your mind map, there's some suggestions over in that little upper right hand corner where you can do that. This is actually a bonus prompt, so you don't find it in your journal. You get to choose where you put it. I took advice from my fabulous cohort this morning, Bailey, who says I always do it on that last page because it makes it really quick and easy to find. So that's where mine has mostly ended up for most months. So thank you for that, Bailey. But you can do this anywhere you want. And here are the 3 weeks so far. So the first week was about our physical possessions. And a lot of us took on like that decluttering mindset. I'm working through a decluttering list of 31 areas in my home, and I'm breaking it down. It's things like tackle 3 drawers in the dresser, not the whole dresser, but really trying to take small bites. And I'm doing okay. Week 2, what are those draining commitments or activities that you can eliminate? Like, what are we saying yes to that are it's not really serving us? And so we kind of dug into that. And this week, we are looking at where do we feel overwhelmed? And we are our own worst enemies because, again, a lot of times it's like, what have we said yes to and we shouldn't have? We're not protecting ourselves. So that mentally, emotionally, or physically. And what small step could bring more simplicity? So we all have areas in our life where things just feel complicated. Maybe it's as simple as looking at, your bank balance and keeping everything reconciled, and that could just give you this sense of overwhelm. So this week I went in the direction of I had shared it a couple of things. I belong to Philanthropic Educational Organization, which is a women's education organization that does scholarships, grants, and very low interest funds for women on their educational journey at all stages of life. And I am my local chapter's president this year. And I thought, yay, I'm going to do this because I'm passionate about education for women. And I went to the state conference last weekend, and I was a delegate, and we were given our charges for the year by the new state president. And I got home, I started feeling really overwhelmed about what did I say yes to? How is this going to work? I don't think how are we going to do this? And I had to stop. And the one small step that came up for me is that there is a lot to accomplish over the next 11 months. But one thing I can do is ask for help from Jen or Becky, who are people in my chapter who have both had the opportunity to serve as president because their experience equals expertise. Like, go to expertise. And I was sharing this with Bailey as we were getting ready this morning. I'm a terrible I need help asker. I just I like to be the one that helps. And so for me, that is something that I can really work on. I can give someone an opportunity to help support me in the way that I appreciate supporting others. So that's where I went. I've got a couple of quotes here. Maybe the journey isn't about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you so that you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. So that's kind of the direction I took. Now, I've got a couple of things to share with you as well. Maybe there's one thing on here that will help you de-stress your routine. Look through that. Maybe something will jump out at you. Look at the things that give you energy versus the things that take away energy. Maybe that little graphic will speak to you about this mind map prompt. We've got those 7 types of rest, and we preach it, preach it, preach it, right? We're always like suggesting putting this in your mind body health space or utilizing the meal plan to really embrace 7 types of rest. And maybe there's one type that you really need to focus on. So perhaps something here will speak to you. And then finally, I am challenging you as you work through this prompt to take something that will help you eliminate the thing that's not serving you and put that in your habit tracker as the first thing on your habit tracker this week. So I'm going to stop talking while you work on this. I'll go back and forth through these slides and let us know. You're already kind of throwing some stuff in the chat. Let us know what's coming to mind for this for you. great sharing in the chat. Thank you for taking a moment. I know this was a fast little hot moment, but I also know that Saturdays are sacred, and I want I want to be sure that we get you out of here onto your day. So, I love Nicole shared that she's learned to reframe misses as intentional breaks. Like, be in charge of that, right? To own it. And I think that just that mind shift can be very helpful to us. Asking for some more help. Yes, Corey, since you were the helper, right? And you're not used to asking for help, and that can be so hard, but it gives other people the opportunity to serve and to feel good about what they're doing. So thank you for sharing that. Rachel shared that she had taken a break in school right now just so that she could like get life on track, right? It was just too much. We have been told we're supposed to do it all, and maybe that's not true. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you. So I appreciate you thinking about this and working on how simplicity can show up in your life. And again, if you need to take a little more time with this, that's okay. You don't have to finish right now. This might be something that you pop on late, pop around into later and look around. And I hope you were able to figure out one activity or habit that you can pop into that accountability tracker this week to make sure that you really are embracing a little less stress. So now I'm going to invite you to turn to I don't think it's page 36. I didn't change this. It's page 44 this week, y'all. Sorry. This is from last week. The slide, but my answers are this week. So, page 44 is where you will find this week's rosebud thorn reflection. And of course, I like to think about, let's look at those thorns. What were the things that were tough, challenging, that caused a little oomph? And they could be temporary or they could be hanging out. I always say those health thorns tend to hang around, and they're kind of hard. If you're a caregiver for someone, that doesn't go away. And so, take a look at that thorn. Let's give it some power and put it on paper and try to leave that behind. When you look at your thorn reflections, always see what you can learn from them. Not that it makes it easier, but what are your takeaways so that you can move forward and be proud of yourself? The bud is, what are you looking forward to? And of course, for me, it's been this Dallas Fort Worth Sonder meetup. I'm so excited. But that's the thing, your bud is what's giving you motivation. And it can be as simple as that new, fresh week turning into your journal, just turning the page in your journal. And then what are you so grateful for over this past week? What brought you just joy, or what did you accomplish that you're proud of? What were glimmers that you saw in your week? So we'll take a moment to do that. I got to go to my grandkids' talent show, which is, and my grandson's grade level danced to the theme song from Aladdin, and there were all the Aladdins and all the Jasmines on stage together. It was a hoot. And then my littlest, my 4-year-old was a little minion, and they had like a movie theme. And anyway, it's just it's so joyful to watch as a grandparent, not the parent that had to make it all happen. So that was kind of fun. And then my thorn is that we had hot days this week, and usually we don't see them until we get through May, and we didn't get through May this year. So I'm a little grumpy about that. Let me put on a little bit of music while you consider your rosebuds and thorns. Share as you are comfortable in the chat. Let us walk beside you through those thorns and celebrate the good things that life brought you this week. I do like to consider this reflection as a gratitude reflection, because when we stop and think about what the week brought us, we can find those little glimmers even in the thorns. So thank you for sharing. As you were comfortable in the chat, you don't have to share, but when you do, can celebrate with you and then hold those thorns. Oh, a new heating and air system. That's a terrible thorn. That's a cha-ching thorn. Sorry about that. Some great, Susie is traveling, and they got to Florida, and there's flight delays, but they're all with family, and her it was like one thing was all three things, right? The rosebud and thorn. So thanks for sharing that. And then Dawn shouted out a quote. She said her bud is every day is a new day with no mistakes. Like when you first begin, like we've got this clean slate. And that's one of the things I love about our journals is that, each week we get to try it again. So thanks for taking moments to share that with us. Let's get going with our weekly planner. And I'm going to encourage you to please share parts, the whole thing, your setup. That helps us grab some ideas to share with the Sonder family. And, we just love seeing your ideas in Sonder Club, and it can inspire people who maybe don't come to socials. Maybe when you share, talk about why you come to a social and what you find so good about them, because that will inspire others. So we are on pages 46 and 47. That's the setup that we'll be working on. And I love this. This has kind of been hanging out on my slide deck this month. I promise myself to stop doubting myself and trust my potential. Spend time each day to take care of myself. Do one thing that scares me but helps me grow, and learn to appreciate the little unnoticeable blessings. And that last line is all about our month of simplicity. So we're going to, invite you to use these pages just as they are printed. We've got these great spaces as guides for setting our week up. But I know that so many of you repurpose your spaces to work in your life. Here's, again, I always share this, not an exhaustive list. There's many, many other things, but these are some considerations. I always tell y'all, this time of year, I have a garden tracker in my shopping list every year. I make a little bingo board for all the tasks that I have in the week. But that will change once I'm kind of done gardening. When the garden gives out, I change it to something else. So anyway, this is about making your pages work for the life that you're going to have this week. So here's a couple of examples from y'all that I pulled from the last week. And you can see the one on the left isn't using the habit and activity tracker. This person is probably choosing, oh, yay, Christy. The left one is yours. Thank you for sharing in Sonder Club. So I'm assuming that you're using maybe just your monthly habit tracker to track things, and they were not on the menu for last week. Good job. You took what you needed. So thank you for that, and thank you for posting. And I love that you wanted to feel like you were the CEO of your life. You can see she's got her 3 goals for the week, and then her to-dos have been done in the form of a bingo card, just to make it a little more fun. And then the one on the right, love that big sticker up at how you want to feel. Yes, you can be prepared. And then that kind of spurred on the rest of the goals. I am prepared for, and then boom, boom, boom. Those 3 things that will be concentrated on. The to-do list is a to-do list. And then you can see the tracker down at the bottom. And she set goals, but you don't have to set goals. So we're going to break this down now into some other some ways to set it up. We want to look at first, how do we want to feel this week? I always give you those tips. It might be a sticker, it might be an affirmation, but I loved this graphic. 4 questions to help you move to and through emotions. And so this might really speak to you right now. Kind of doing a check-in, like, how am I feeling right now? And then considering how do those feelings impact me? Like, what is that, what's it doing to my head? And then what are the options I have for dealing with the situation? So, like, this really ties beautifully into that feeling of overwhelm that we addressed through that simplicity mind map this week. And then the fourth thing is, what is one values aligned step I can take? So you might want to really dig in to how you want to feel this week. And I've got our mood tracker feelings wheel here, and, there's some beautiful words here to grab onto, to gravitate to. But if you are doing this self check-in and you're looking at words that fall under the fear, anger, or sadness category, and that's where you are, and you're maybe feeling like you're living there a little bit, I'll invite you to maybe slide over to one of the words in surprise, love, and joy in one of those categories. And maybe, you can change fear to something in the surprise category. Maybe you can change the sadness something in the joy category. Maybe you can take your anger and change that to something that's in the love category. So think about now, how do that self check-in, and how do you want to feel, and drop that in the chat. How do you want to feel this week? Like, when we're sitting here in a week from now, what do you want to be like proud of that, because you embraced this word? Susie just dropped in cheerful. So she's going to embrace that. And so hopefully cheerful will guide the rest of her journal setup. Christy says she wants to feel cool. Nicole is saying that this week she wants to feel abundance, and she had a sticker so I always say stickers want to be stuck. Proud and peaceful, proud of myself, energized. We need that, right, Brenda? It's Maycember for all of you who participate, whether you want to or not. Fulfilled, brave. I love that. Brave is such a good word. You need to, like, put on some good playlist and hype music for that one. In charge of your time for simplicity's sake. I love that reflection. Okay, so now we're going to take that feeling into our goals and our to-dos for the week. And I will go through some examples, and then I'm going to put on music for you to work on your whole page. So that's the direction we'll be taking. And remember, if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, not the goal. So your goal can still be the same, but maybe you need to think about the steps that you're taking to get there, the to-dos. So ask yourself, how will your goals support that feeling that you are shouting out, that how you want to feel this week? Here's some great examples of how folks did that. The one in the middle and the one on the left is really fun because they're doing a little daily self check-in, a little tracker there. So that's kind of fun. I always love the little spaces that have these grids, because we can get very creative with that. So that's, being intentional, like the one on the left says. So there's a suggestion for that. Love the three goals of movies and books and a creative project. So really, honing in on something that's going to feed your flow, right? That's there over there on the left. And Zoom user, tell us your name. We got a question. How do I go about taking a day off of thinking? Like, how can we calm our minds down? Mary Ellen. So y'all drop in some ideas for Mary Ellen. She's wanting to to not let her mind take over her life, and have a break. So what do you do? Drop that in the chat while I'm talking, so Mary Ellen can grab some ideas from that. The one in the one in the middle and the one on the right, you can see there's three categories. So lots of folks like to come up with three categories that shout out to their life, and then they just plug in a little goal for each one of those. So you can see the one in the middle is let go of, lean into, and learn. The one on the right, self, home, work. And so that's how they set their goals up. You can repurpose this space though. If goals are not speaking to you and you feel like you're getting what you need through your intentions and through your habit tracker, maybe you put quotes here, the movies and books and podcasts you want to do, explore topics you want to know about. Maybe go back and take another look at those intentions and figure out a way to really connect with your intentions through this space. If you use this space for something other than your weekly goals, drop that in the chat. I love this example on the bottom right. Three major values of the week. So, kind of like being mindful of those core values. I loved that idea. The one that's kind of in the upper middle there has 4 things in their space. So again, permission to use this as you need. Maybe you have one goal for the week. I love this one because I could have used this a couple weeks. My Easter just stayed up forever. So she's got Easter down, summer up, and then added a +1 down there at the bottom to declutter, work on declutter. All righty. So now let's take a look at our to-dos. I put this little quote up every now and then. Sometimes I accomplish a task, write it down on the to-do list, and then cross it off for that adrenaline rush to get that serotonin dripping in your mind. But also that's a to-do list, right? When we just embrace that. So I've used this example before. It's an oldie from last year, but this person they had kind of one goal for the week, and it was to unplug. And then they gave themselves like a little bingo menu of ways to unplug so that it was looking at them. And then they had this accountability portion with themselves to where one of their habit and activities for the week was to unplug. So pointed them right back up to that menu. So that was a really great way of that self accountability using the tools in your journal to make sure that you are doing what you want to do for the week. So just kind of embracing all these sections to work together. We've got some other like goals driving to-dos, so you can see that there. And mind, body, soul were just 3 goals, like these big thoughts for both of the examples you see on the left. And then how am I going to connect that? How am I going to make that work? And so that became their weekly to-dos, but the weekly to-dos actually changed to be the one, see the one in the upper, my weekly to be for the mind, body, soul. And then the one below that is the weekly no's. What am I saying no to protect my mind, my body, my soul? So I love these. So again, grab some screenshots. You may not be using this now, but you may want to come and visit it again on another week. Like I love the weekly no's. That's a great one to have um, kind of in your hip pocket for an upcoming week that could be rough. When we look at our to-do list, make sure that you are being very concrete with the things you want to do and assign a priority. I've got a couple of tools to share with you to do that. You plan time in your schedule. That's how you get those to-dos accomplished, that they are accountable to a time block of some sort. You're writing them on a day or a specific time. Can you group your tasks? That's kind of that category idea. Again, office, home. Here's what I'm going to do while I'm running my errands, and make sure that you're being as efficient as you can. And then list only as many items as can be realistically accomplished. Set yourself up for success. So if you have a huge to-do list, maybe you take the top 4 for the whole week. You can always add more, but celebrate the things that you do and then cross off or delete, and then you get to start a new list. Here are 2 great tools that we love in Sonder Club. So the Eisenhower Matrix, named after the former President Eisenhower, helps you take your to-do list and plug things in to make sure that you are doing the most important and urgent things first, and then you can put the not important, not urgent things in that 4th quadrant. And it really helps you flesh that stuff out. We talk about this one a lot. And then, of course, the Pomodoro technique. I know you can read, go through that. But it's the idea of time blocks, right? And so maybe you don't do a full Pomodoro technique, but you embrace the idea of setting a timer for a certain amount of time as you are working on something. So I've got this decluttering challenge. So like I was in the closet and I set my phone for my timer for 15 minutes and I only work for 15 minutes, but I got more done in 15 minutes under a timer than I would have done if I had just said, clean out the right side of the closet today. Because I would have, my thoughts would have taken me other places. So that idea of time boxing can be very, very efficient. And then finally, this is called Kanban, and it's from the Toyota factory. And they started doing this as ways to kind of visualize your work in progress. So if you are a post-it notes gal, maybe grab a piece of blank printer paper and make yourself 3 sections and write little post-it notes of your to-do list. And then you can move them as you are working on them and see what you've done. This is like a little step further than just marking it off, right? But you can see what's in process. Like you're not doing something, I've got some things in the works, and then your to-do list. So this could be just that affirmation that sometimes we are looking for there. And then some to-do lists from y'all that I grabbed onto, how it's divided up, school and personal, the one at the bottom right, every week. I love the one at the top, every week and this week. So they've got, what's going on every single week. I want to do this. And I love, it's like they're those chores, those grown-up self-care things that we do. And then let's drop down very quickly and look at our habit and activity tracker. There are some micro habits, some little bitty things that can make really a big difference in your day. We always say don't start with a bunch of new habits, like bring those things over. I hope that you got a little habit, a little activity in place from our mind map work this week. James Clear always says if you're going to try something new, there are some things you need to do. You need to show up. Your new habit should take less than 2 minutes. Again, setting yourself up for success. And then start with a gateway habit. And so, walk 10,000 steps every day becomes put on my running shoes. Or keep the house tidy means put one item of dirty clothing in the laundry. I mean, start with those very, very small steps. And you can even write it out as after I do this, I will do this. And so you take a current habit and you pair it or stack it with a new habit. And if you put those together, then chances are you're going to be more successful in being able to keep that new habit because it's paired with something you're already doing. Again, we're revisiting that. What are you cutting out that's not working in your life? What do you need to let go of? And then this is an example, I think, from Kimberly L. And there's her habits and activities for the week. But then there, look at the rewards that she's incorporated in this tracker. And I love this idea because, like, her reward, my favorite one is the fourth one 1 hour of mindless scrolling, because we all talk about, like, we need to stop scrolling, we need to stop scrolling. However, she's put some parameters around that. She's gonna give herself an hour to just let her mind scroll and do that thing that we know we shouldn't do for 3 hours, right? So I love the idea of those self rewards, and you know what speaks to you. They're all very small things. And then, the idea on the bottom is circling the days that you want something to happen, that you wanna make sure that that really does happen. There is a graphic from the Silk and Sonder Instagram page. These would be great things for a habit tracker. And you can see the one in the middle. They didn't set goals, they're just tracking it with these little colored dots. I love the idea of this one is themed to veggies and fruit. And so all of that's probably a goal for nutrition. And they're just tracking the colors that they eat, which I thought was really fun. Um, Also, look at that one on the very bottom. Just, I'm going to give myself a little grace. This is not the week to do my habit tracker. That's okay too. There's some great habit tracker ideas, again, to add some things to your journal. I'm going to go back and look at all of these slides again while you work on this page and share anything that you do that might be a little bit different, or how you're approaching your goals and your to-dos this week, your to-do list this week. And then I'll be back to check in with you and we'll go to page 2. Good work, everybody. You might not quite have your page set up. No worries. Just keep going while I'm chatting away. We're now going to flip over to our side B, the next page, page 2 of our weekly setup. And here are again 2 examples from Sonder family of how they're utilizing these spaces. Once again, you're invited to use them just as they are. But I love this one on the left, the idea of turning this meal tracker into prepare your, and then all the different areas in their life, their mind, their strategy, body, skills, finances, family, and soul. And so that is filled out, ready to go, ready to be those reminders. And Heather is shouting out the one on the right is hers. Thank you for sharing. I love that. I love that you are using your meal plan for your affirmation each day. That's your affirmation space. And she has her mind body health set up to fill her cup. What is going to kind of give her that reset during the week. And then of course the shopping list has been turned into a bingo board. I love that, Heather. I love me a bingo board. Crazy, crazy, crazy about that. And then what you're loving was one of your fun stickers that says give yourself grace. The one over there on the left, they put a quote there in the shopping list. So it's all about taking what you need for your page. Let's look at some examples for the meal plan. Now, of course, you can use this to track your meals, to track macros, to track, are you getting enough veggies? In these, here's 2 examples of how folks are setting this up. You can do it as a planner or a tracker. And then there's a ton of repurpose ideas. And really, anything I'm showing you on these next slides for all of these spaces could be used anywhere. I know that there are many people who will use the meal plan space for something that takes up a little more room writing wise, because we've just got these good spaces. And then they put like their main meals of the day over in their mind body health plan. So it's again, what works for you. I love to shout out the water droplets because if you could use them for tracking, you can color code based on what you're drinking, right? But there are also 8 droplets here. And is there something like from your mood tracker that you're looking at this week, right? Is there a way you could maybe use your water droplet as an hourly check in with yourself? Or maybe that hour, maybe you've put in your habit and activity tracker that you want to make sure that you're taking deep breaths. Well, perhaps you hold yourself accountable to doing that on the hour by coloring in, or marking off a water droplet and using those 8, doing that 8 times a day, those 8 hours. So that's kind of a fun repurpose of those water droplets. Or you could do a check-in like when I fill my cup, but it could also be figuratively, right? Am I filling my cup on the regular throughout the day? And you do that. Someone is tracking their checking in with themselves with their energy level, and they're assigning, and they're just marking that off when they check in. So like this person's energy level was at a 6, and they highlighted 6 droplets. So just an idea on that. Again, more ideas for repurposing. Here's some great, we love the meal plan for the soul. And I'll be going, there's that prepare your mind, strategy, body, all that. There's that one again, so that you can grab onto that. The one you see here is a perfect example of habit stacking. This was a house cleaning list that was so while I'm folding my laundry, I do a podcast, making it kind of fun, pick random colors and clean only the items of those colors. But I like on Saturday, call mom on speaker and chat with her while I'm mopping the floor. So getting 2 things done at once, which I love that example. mind body health plan. Perhaps we need to embrace 7 days of happiness, and there's an idea for a happiness challenge. Lots of great ideas. The one on the bottom left looks like there was a menu to choose from, and then when those things happened on that day, the line was just drawn up there, right? So, like for mindfulness, it was practiced on Tuesday and on Thursday. Baking happened on Saturday. Friday saw rest and renew, as did Sunday. So, kind of this menu and then drawing lines when you held yourself accountable to that. And maybe this space is your self care plan for the week. Here's some great self-care ideas. And every once in a while, the graphic on the bottom left gets thrown in my slides because I think it's so funny. Your plan is to get off your butt. I think that's so funny. Take care of yourself. And then the shopping list again, another great space to just repurpose. I keep my shopping list on my phone. There's an example of a shopping list used as a shopping list in the upper left with the groceries and the pharmacy, but also lots of repurposing happens here. We love that grid. Oh, that one in the upper right is my garden tracker I was mentioning, and it looks the same just about every week because the tasks repeat. Maybe this is a space to doodle for you. Maybe it is a rhythm and routine. So you see the two over there on the right are both about evening routines. The one on the bottom is actually a former one of mine that I use. And I'm going to put on some music while you work on this page and share. Do you repurpose any of these spaces? my friends, you showed up for yourself this morning and for each other. Thank you for the support in the chat. We always want to remind you about looking into the personal life coach. If you haven't done that already, you have questions. There's been a lot of videos or a lot of socials happening that there are videos on the YouTube page that you can go watch. Bailey will start dropping in those chats or those links in the chat so you can go do that. So if you're still like trying to figure out, be sure to do that. There's our playlist for today. And then I want to thank you again for just carving out this time to start your weekend with us, with Sonder family. We're so honored. Bailey and I are so glad you're here. And as we leave today, I would love for you to tell us, what are you loving right now? Product, show, podcast, book, music. Drop it all in the chat. And I'll be doing all the setup. So I'll be back tomorrow night and Monday morning. But I can't wait to see you, maybe coloring social on Tuesday. Thanks for joining us, Sonder family.